The snow fell softly over the small, sleepy village of Ashwood, blanketing the cobblestone streets and rooftops in a layer of pristine white. It was the kind of place where nothing ever happened until the night of the Midwinter ball, when the unthinkable occurred. Detective Inspector Harold Blake, a tall, sharp-eyed man with a reputation for solving the most perplexing cases, had been visiting his sister in Ashwood when the news broke. The grand ball at Ashwood Manor, hosted by the wealthy and reclusive Sir Reginald Ashwood, had ended in tragedy. One of the guests, a young and beautiful socialite named Lady Eleanor Hartley, had been found dead in the library, a single stab wound to her chest. The local constable, overwhelmed by the gravity of the crime, had immediately sought Blake's assistance. By the time Blake arrived at Ashwood Manor, the guests had been gathered in the drawing room, their faces pale with shock and fear. Sir Reginald, a stern man in his 60s, stood by the fireplace, his hands trembling as he addressed the group. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice unsteady, "a terrible crime has been committed under my roof. I assure you, the culprit will be found and brought to justice." Blake wasted no time. He examined the library, the scene of the crime. The room was dimly lit, the only light coming from a flickering chandelier. Lady Eleanor's body lay on the floor near the bookshelves, her elegant gown stained with blood. A small, ornate dagger, later identified as belonging to Sir Reginald's collection, was found nearby, wiped clean of fingerprints. Blake interviewed the guests, one by one. The first was Lady Eleanor's fiancé, Mr. Charles Whittaker, a handsome but nervous man who claimed to have been in the ballroom at the time of the murder. Next was Miss Beatrice Ashwood, Sir Reginald's niece, a quiet and reserved young woman who admitted to arguing with Lady Eleanor earlier in the evening. Then there was Dr. Samuel Graves, the village physician, who had been seen speaking with Lady Eleanor shortly before her death. He claimed their conversation had been about her recent illness, but Blake noticed a faint tremor in his hands as he spoke. Finally, there was Mrs. Edith Crawley, a sharp-tongued widow who had been a close friend of Sir Reginald's late wife. She had been overheard making bitter remarks about Lady Eleanor, accusing her of being a gold digger who had ensnared Charles Whittaker for his fortune. As Blake pieced together the clues, a picture began to emerge. Lady Eleanor had been a woman of secrets. She had been seen arguing with multiple guests that night, and rumors swirled about her past. But who among them had a motive to kill her? The breakthrough came when Blake discovered a torn piece of paper in the library fireplace. It was part of a letter, the words barely legible: "If you reveal the truth, I will have no choice but to." The rest had been consumed by the flames. Blake confronted Sir Reginald, who reluctantly admitted that Lady Eleanor had been blackmailing him. She had discovered evidence of his involvement in a financial scandal years ago and had threatened to expose him unless he paid her a large sum of money. But Sir Reginald had an alibi. He had been in the ballroom, surrounded by guests, at the time of the murder. Blake turned his attention to Miss Beatrice Ashwood, who'd been seen leaving the ballroom shortly before the crime. Under questioning, she broke down and confessed. Beatrice revealed that she had overheard Lady Eleanor's threats to her uncle and had confronted her in the library. In a fit of rage, she had grabbed the dagger from the wall and stabbed Lady Eleanor, hoping to protect her family's reputation. As the snow continued to fall outside, Blake handed Beatrice over to the constable. The Midwinter ball, once a celebration of joy and merriment, had ended in tragedy. But for Detective Inspector Harold Blake, it was just another case, closed, a reminder that even in the most idyllic of places, darkness could lurk beneath the surface. And so, the village of Ashwood returned to its quiet ways, the memory of that fateful night fading into legend. But for those who had been there, the mystery of the murder in Midwinter would never be forgotten.